how many of our police officers have early onset of dementias, because that's also looking potentially at CTE. So if that is the case, what I don't want is you guys being pigeonholed or anybody being pigeonholed into this is PTSD and there's memory issues, when the truth of the matter is there's probably underlying neurological issues, which means drugs change.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. Knowing what you know about me from the little times that we've sat face to face, and Mike as well.
See, I'm afraid to ask that question myself.
What are the chances that we have either a CTE or a TBI? What if you had to? And I'm not holding you to this. I would, without doing any of your clinical work. I'm very interested to know.
So CTE, again, I always hesitate in even going down that path because I don't know how many repetitive head impacts that you've had.
15 plus.
But no, because you've got to start in childhood. How many times, how long did you play football for?
Till I was 22.
Starting at what age?
7.
Okay. So you didn't just have, 15. You're talking about non-concussive hits. You're talking about every time somebody pushed you.
Yeah.
When you are pushed, what happens with your head?
Yeah.
And they're talking about with a G-force hit. So that's what they're looking at. They're not looking at concussions. They're looking at the non-concussive hits.
And it's not only a hit to the head also.
No, absolutely
It's a jarring hit to the body where
Correct.
Your neck snaps.
Correct. And the rotational
whiplash.
hits, hits are actually worse.
Yeah, and it's like we said, when you're a child, before your neck is even developed, right? All those hits that you're getting, you're not absorbing the impact properly at all.
So one of the things, with this knowledge, so Dr. Dancefier now trains with Copline so that he trains our volunteers because, again, knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that we're the first hotline in the world that's training on asking our callers about any type of head impact that they had, being able to talk about this, and then being able to give them referrals, not just to culturally competent therapists, that they're talk therapists, but also being able to refer them to the Concussion Legacy Foundation. So if you go on CLF's website, that CLF has now changed so that when there's helplines, Copline's listed as one of the first resources for first responders, but there's something that you can fill out for the helpline, and they will then get you the culturally competent neurologists and appropriate medical doctors to deal with the head injuries.
That's amazing.
So when we talk about us working with them, yes, that's the work that we've been able to now do. And CLF's website is changing, and they're building one out just for first responders and law enforcement because they absolutely anticipate that we are touching on the tip of an iceberg right now. And we're training our guys to ask these questions.
So I'm going to be one of the first in line. First chance I get is I will donate my brain because...
Oh, I always said that.
Here's why. Not because I really... First of all, good luck.
Well, I want to donate my brain because I want all these pathologists and all that to just start laughing. Like, what the hell's going on inside that thing?
But after I'm gone, if I can stop one, if I can stop 2,
right,
great. But one's enough for me. Like, one is enough for me. And if you listen, they could look at my brain and say, "Yeah, no, we're not." They just throw it right in the garbage.
Next.
And or it'll end up being put in Frankenstein by Igor, the abnormal brain,
abnormal.
But it's amazing that there's finally something.
Yes.
Other than these traditional treatments, which aren't working. I hate to say it, they're limited success.
And again, when you talk about EMDR, when you talk about some of this stuff, you need to like meditation. Again, stimulates the frontal lobe. When we look at what it is, again, it's not that you throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you need to understand why the hell it's working.
Yeah.
And if we can explain that we are activating a frontal lobe, that this long history of head impacts and concussions whether diagnosed or not, most of us, we are of an age where we are concussed adults that parents had us shaking it off from the time we were 3 years old on,
Rub some dirt on it.
Right. So, but if we can understand why it's working, that just makes a world of difference to all of us.
It really is a game changer.
I agree. And just so you know, as far as if you want to donate your brain, if you go on Copline's website, we've got a link that will do it. A lot of people have ended up.
Can Kevin donate his brain before he dies?
I did that last year. I
I was
sold
going to
it.
say, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm so grateful that I came to you because we're always looking for alternative methods. We're always looking for things that are outside of the box, outside of the norm, because our path through post-traumatic stress was not an easy path, and it did some good, but I feel like I left some stuff on the table. That's why I'll go into a harmonic egg. We talk about, or I'll try certain forms of therapy. I'll try Reiki. I'll try all that stuff, because here's the bottom line. When you are in your deepest, darkest hole, you will bend down, put your head between your legs, and try to stick your head up your ass if you thought it would help.
Yep.
You will do anything.
And I'm okay with sticking your head up your ass as long as somebody can explain to me why the fuck it's going to work.
There you go.
And how it'll fit.
Okay. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Because before I try it, I want to know why.
But
that's
as
that's
long
huge.
as it gives you some sort of relief, which is going back to why cops have such bad addiction problems, because it's whatever works at the time.
Right.
But Kev, I think you'd agree with this. Our path through post-traumatic stress was really by feel.
Oh, it was
Right?
totally by feel.
Yeah, there was nothing that was set in stone. It was just by feel. If something felt like it was working, then you went with it.
But now you have a true metric. It was kind of like the first time I discovered the use of heart rate variability to see whether I'm tired or not. Because in the old days, before you could monitor your heart rate variability, you were just tired. And if you didn't want to go to the gym or you didn't want to work out, you try to sort of push your way through it. And if you couldn't push your way through it, you were just a wuss.
Right.
But now with heart rate variability, it's like, I'm feeling tired. I check my heart rate variability. My body's tired. Now you have a metric
Yes.
on how to judge all that stuff.
Right.
Not only for the people who really need it, but I got to be honest with you. You can do that metric on people who are full of shit. That metric. And it's not going to work every time, but at least there's something in place to say that's quantifiable that says, okay, there's all the markers are here. This is the most encouraging news I've heard in years.
Now you understand why I'm so excited
Yeah,
about it.
amazing.
myself.
I think it's amazing.
And and dealing with like medication. So one of if I get limitless amounts of research money, I mean, one of the other pieces is how many of our police officers have early onset of dementias, because that's also looking potentially at CTE. So if that is the case, what I don't want is you guys being pigeonholed, or anybody being pigeonholed into this is PTSD and there's memory issues, when the truth of the matter is there's probably underlying neurological issues, which means drugs change. So you go to your Ariceps, you go to your Alzheimer meds, which stop the progression of the tau protein. Tau is seen in Alzheimer's in a certain part of the brain, and tau is seen in CTE in a different part of the brain. And that's what slows it down. But until we start really asking questions, we're not going to be able to do this. And we need to. When I was looking at who's the actor now that's struggling with
Bruce
dementia.
Willis.
Yes.
Bruce Willis, yeah.
What do we know about Bruce Willis? He did all his own damn stunts.
Yep.
Did you?
Yep. I'm going to tell you.
It's not good news for Jackie Chan.
Never mind,
Or Tom
Jackie.
Cruise.
Yep, Tom Cruise. I have no
Well,
doubt.
he eats fetuses. That's how he stays so young.
And some of his behavior is probably also, and when you look at his mood dysregulation
right?
and stuff, I mean, he's off the charts.
Well, he's from New Jersey, so he's a little.
But everything
he's a
you're
little
saying,
baba.
everything you're saying,
It all
is-
just, it's like, sorry, it's like the missing, it's like the missing pieces, right?
And that's actually the name of when I present. It's a missing piece of suicide prevention.
I'm excited. I'm fascinated. I'm like,
So am I.
this is crazy.
and I'm all in. And I'm seriously
Can
all
I just
in.
ask a question, right? Just from a perspective of if somebody reaches out, obviously, to Copline for help.
Yeah.
So now they're asking about the knocks and all that kind of stuff, your brain injuries and what have you. So when they're being assessed, what is the protocol? Like, do they go for, normally the way they're assessed based on their assessment, they're
So-
sent to a treatment facility that
So
best suits their
we
needs.
don't assess them. So
Right.
so you call up, you're an officer, you're dealing with, you give us all the symptoms or what have you, and the officers, in that hole with you.
Yeah.
And then being able to say, how long have you been depressed for? Blah blah blah. You're struggling with this, that, and the other thing. I'm also wondering whether or not you have experienced any type of head trauma. Because what we're finding with research is that there is a large correlation between depression, anxiety, and people with PTSD. Like gotten your bell rung. You're not diagnosed. Did you play contact sports? And when that happens, then the referral goes to the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and we let them deal with the
Great.
with the experts.
Yeah, I was
So-
wondering how it works.
Yeah,
like,
that's how it is.
I
yeah.
do want you to give out Copline,
Okay.
all the information. I want you
Yep.
to give out all these plugs because just to tell everybody the value, I called one of these hotlines when I was in a really bad spot, and it got me into somebody who I trust. And without it, I don't even want to think of the possibilities.
Yeah.
But you called all those sex hotlines before you got to
And
that.
you were paying a fortune.
Yeah, 1-900 numbers were my piece. Some people drink it away. I call phones. But please give out all Copline's information.
So Copline is 1-800-Copline, which is 1-800-267-5463. Copline is a not-for-profit that we take no state or federal money. And the reason why is for the integrity of these lines. So there's only retired, vetted, trained officers that answer those lines. And there are 3 reasons why we will breach confidentiality. If the caller is engaged in child abuse, elder abuse, or is going to kill somebody, we do not breach for suicide. You are allowed to talk about the worst day of your life without fear of somebody coming to get you. And that has proven time and time again to be invaluable for Copline. And we also know from numbers that, again, Los Angeles Suicide Prevention Hotline, the oldest hotline in the country, that between 1963 and 2019, we haven't, the numbers have gone up. However, the numbers of suicide has not gone up on the lines. Is that 2 people out of 7,500,000 that called died by suicide on the lines. 2. Statistically speaking, you do not breach. This is why cops will not call, because they are so afraid
of being labeled.
Yep.
Yep.
And our volunteers are trained to deal with anything from that bad day. 95% of our calls are just bad day calls. It is not a suicide hotline. We believe that if we can grab them with low-hanging fruit, when there's high-hanging fruit, they had a good experience, they'll call. I think one of the, if you don't mind, I'm going to share 2 wonderful calls. One of them, I think that will always remain with me, was a woman in her 30s. Her father was a police officer who had passed away, and she wanted fatherly advice, and she wanted to talk to a cop. And so she called, and it was just a beautiful kind of call. And I remember our volunteer had said that he hopes when he's gone and his daughter needs to talk to somebody that she'll make
That's
a call.
awesome.
So that was one that really touched my heart. And the other one was a vet who has a dual career, which, as you know, is pretty common. And he made the call to the Veterans Hotline. Veterans Hotline had decided that he was suicidal. He had made suicidal statements and called because who do you call? You call the police department. It's his police department. So now his own shows up. And it was his lieutenant, and his lieutenant called him up and said, I need you to come out. And he went nuts. And he said, I need you to look out the window. And it was his lieutenant who had taken off literally everything, had no guns, and he said, I just need to give you a card. And he came out, and he gave him Copline's card and said, call them. They don't call us when somebody's talking about killing themselves. And that became invaluable for us. And when I've done, we worked with Veterans Hotline through D.D. Hirsch out in California, and they had asked us to tell that story because of how important it was. So, you know, I know what it's like to feel like your world's coming to an end, but I can't imagine what it's like when one of your own comes to your home, and you now feel like you're embarrassed,
Yeah.
and now you've really
And
lost
it
everything.
digs that hole deeper.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share with you an incident.
Okay.
On one of my many attempts, I took a bunch of Klonopin, way too many, and I fell asleep. And my wife tried to stir me, and I wasn't waking up. When the police showed up, they tried a little harder to stir me, and they were able to do it. So I opened my eyes. I'm sitting in a chair. I open my eyes, and I'm staring in front of people that I know.
At your lowest point.
The amount of embarrassment.
Yep.
You feel embarrassment. You feel like a failure. You feel all these different things. And incidentally, and then I had to go to the hospital, and it was all sorts of, it was a whole thing.
Right.
If I would have just reached out to somebody like Copline, non-judgmental, who I could talk through that portion, that something I'm not very proud of that I did, but I did it, so I own it, you know. What you're doing for the police community can never be repaid, but I know at some level it's refilling your heart, because your soul is going to be clean when you pass on, because you did really God's work. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for what you're doing and what you're about to do and what you're currently doing.
Truly my honor. I mean, truly, truly my honor. I'm just glad that I found the vehicle and I found the path, and that I haven't wavered.
On behalf of the hundreds of thousand cops that you have helped, I want to thank you also.
So
And Amanda, you also. You know, you're part of this.
Amanda, you've been a shining star for police, both of you. We could not do what we did without people such as yourself doing what you do and caring. But we are coming to the end of this thing, and I end the show the same way every time, because you have seen an enormous amount of suffering. And anytime you see suffering, if you're not learning from it, if you're not having a takeaway from it, it's really a lost opportunity. So seeing what you've seen, detailing this brain, finding a new path to curing what they consider post-traumatic stress, which is hard even to call post-traumatic stress anymore. What do you think it's taught you?
To look beyond, to not follow the path that everybody else followed, to think outside of the box, and to be willing to take as much shit as you have to do so.
And look at the big picture.
Yeah.
You know, not just,
Correct.
oh, okay, PTSD. It's a checklist, PTSD, CTE. There's look at the big picture of why it's happening.
Absolutely.
Not how it happened, why this is happening.
And what can be done.
Exactly.
I am solution-based.
So, Stephanie, we've had some moments in this studio. One of them is sitting right next to you. The other one who I spoke with is Clark Fredericks. And you have been added to that list of people who have
touched us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. What
Thank
an
you.
honor.
We always talk about decompressing on the way home. I may have to take a couple laps around the block before I actually get home after this one.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been an honor. Amanda, you left me speechless tonight.
For once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mission impossible.
And I took a lot of pride in that I
Yes,
finally
you
made
did.
Kevin
That was-
speak.
He
that
was
was
grinning
a-
like the Cheshire
That was a
Cat.
good one, bud. That was a real good one. And that's going to do it.
And
Thank
Andrew
you.
knew about it too, so Andrew never let the cat out of
No.
the bag.
Jeez, you too. What other secrets are you guys keeping from me?
And I just want to say to you, Stephanie, as well, from the perspective of what I do, like it's nothing like what you do, but I mean, having people like you, obviously doing what I do, you learn. Like I said, I've evolved over these years, right? You're learning all of these new ways to be able to help people and everything else. But to finally see that, you know, there's people out there who are willing to go above and beyond to keep on fighting. Because just when you think you have the answer, there's something more that's going to come apart, right? And just knowing that there's people like you out there that's going to continue to fight for that, that's huge. It's huge. Like, I just found tonight fascinating. See, I think it was God's work we were supposed to be here tonight, you know?
There are no chance meetings. You're always where you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
See, my whole thing is if your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic, they know what's wrong with it. Your brain breaks down, nobody knows what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
I'm overly grateful that I know both of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of the Brain with Stephanie Samuels. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Therapists bear witness to the pain. Police are loyal, but police are also unforgiving. What's on the other side of the wall? There's more of you than there aren't. Just take a look beyond, but most importantly, the brain keeps score. And if you or anybody else you know is suffering with depression, mental health, suicidal thoughts, and they're in the first responder or law enforcement field, please call 1-800-Copline. They're there to help you. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, like. You can ring the bell, and now you can join. Go to popple.com for a digital business card. Put in the code TSP20 for 20% off. Follow us on all social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Oh, you took a book out of Amanda's page.
OnlyFans. Mike, that was your cue to say OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Follow Mike at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And, of course, follow the Suffering Podcast as well as Irish Angel. And we're going to see you on the next episode.